Hey everybody, how are we today? It is Wednesday, so you know it is time for Q&A Wednesday here in the Central Women Experience group. And I am your hostess with the mostest, Dawn Easter. So I want to thank you guys so much for joining. And those who aren't live, who are catching this on the replay, thank you so much for watching this and sharing your time with me today. So I'm going to give just a couple of seconds, couple of minutes or so for people to log on and join us, and we'll see who pops in live with us today. And while we're waiting to see if we get some folks popping on live, oops, fix my camera just a little bit here, and I am taking a look at the questions that we had in the group today, things that we are going to talk about. So I hope you guys are having a fabulous week, a fabulous Wednesday. And it looks like we are halfway through the week, which is awesome. So just gonna dive in here tonight. Hey, somebody that just popped on, good to see you. So what we are talking about today, one thing that I noticed is that this week, over the last few days, there have been a lot of questions and a lot of comments around self-worth and dealing with relationships and that sort of thing. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit today before we dive into the questions. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine earlier today, and she had posted something on her social media in reference to, if a man doesn't treat you, hey there, if a man doesn't treat you like a jewel, then walk away, like leave. And I responded to her, I was like, yes, run, Forrest, run. Like, just run in the opposite direction. And what I have found, and something that I've experienced in my previous relationships and growing up, is that, and maturing into my womanhood, is that a lot of times when we get into these relationships and we are looking for something, we're wanting to experience whatever it is that we're wanting to experience in this relationship, whether it's love or the feeling of being taken care of or any of those things, we tend to project those needs onto our partner. And if, for whatever reason, they're unable to fulfill those needs, or they are in the relationship for a different reason and things end, we tend to take their behavior or their ending of the relationship as something is being wrong with us. And that's not the case. And there are a couple ways that you can look at this so that you can kind of understand what relationships are. Relationships are really mirrors for us. They are mirrors for our growth, for our evolution, for our journey to move forward and become better, right? And sometimes the people that we get into relationships with are only meant to be in those relationships for a very short amount of time, because they're supposed to spark something in us and then we continue moving forward. They're not necessarily meant to be forever relationships. It's there to activate something in your spirit. It's there to activate a spark of growth within your character. It's there to evolve your sense of who you are and your being in this world, and then you keep going. It's like preparation. You know, you go to school, you start in kindergarten, where you don't graduate at kindergarten, you go to first grade, you go to second grade, and so on and so forth, until you move to the next level, until you're ready to graduate. And so that's what a lot of relationships are. They're not forever things, right? They're just temporary. They're just catalysts, right? They're just temporary catalysts for your growth. And when someone isn't responding or behaving in a way that works for you, or maybe they're behaving in a way and it starts to trigger some feelings in you, like maybe, excuse me, he isn't doing whatever it is that you want him to do. He isn't spending enough time. He isn't calling. He isn't making you a priority. That really isn't about you. It's about his behaviors, because we tend to forget that just like we're coming into a relationship with all of our pieces and parts and baggage and things that have occurred in our lives, the other person is coming to the table with the exact same stuff from their point of view, their own baggage and issues and dramas, all of those things that they've grown up with, their patterns of behavior that have been instilled in them and different things that have happened to them. They're bringing that to the table. And their behavior is about them. It has nothing to do with your self-worth as a woman. It has nothing to do with whether or not you're good enough or any of that sort of crap. It's just not about you. It's about them. And we forget that, and we tend to step out of our power. We don't lose our power. We just step out of it because we forget who we are and what it is that we bring to the table. And so I just want to remind some of the ladies that are in the group and some that are watching this on the replay that, you know, relationships are about your evolution. They're about your growth. And they're not all meant to last. They're meant to prepare you for the next step in your journey. So I know it's not always easy to remember that, especially when you're in the midst of that storm or the aftermath of that relationship, but really try to focus on what was this supposed to teach me? What was I supposed to learn? What was I supposed to heal so that I don't take it into my next relationship? Like for me personally, in a relationship that I was in, I needed to heal some issues that I was experiencing with my father from my childhood. And I noticed that I was repeating these patterns in my relationships because I hadn't healed the things that were going on or the things that had happened between my father and I. So I was acting that out in my relationships, even though I didn't realize it at the time. So I say all that to say to you is that just take some time to really reflect on what it is that you're supposed to learn, how that relationship is going to move you forward, and bless that person because they played the role of the position that they were supposed to play in your life. And now you take all of that and you move forward. So try not, I know it's easy to say when you're not in it, not to hold on to it, but really try not to hold onto it from a place of a lack of what didn't happen. Try to focus on how this has made me better, and that will help you kind of move forward and get out of this place of the negative responses and feelings that you may have that are left over from that relationship. So definitely want to touch on that, and hopefully that resonated with some of you and helped you. If you have any questions about that, feel free to leave a comment below, or if you want to message me, you can always send me a direct message and we can talk in private about that. All right? So the first question that we had today was from Deb, and Deb says that she would love to learn more about being intuitive and how to manifest my king. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at that. So how can you be more intuitive? One of the most profound ways to get in touch with your intuition is to get in touch with your body, to really develop that relationship with your body, because for me, your intuition flows through your body. You get those gut feelings or that sense of knowing, or you have physical sensations when different things are happening with you and around you. So you definitely want to take some time, Deb, to create a practice or a ritual that involves you getting in touch with your body. One of the ways that I do that is every morning I go for a walk outside, and I go really early in the morning where it's hardly anyone else up, and that's when I have my time to talk to God and I get my exercise in, but I also get in touch with my body. And as I'm walking and I'm quiet, different things will start to come up for me, different things that I need to pay attention to, different things that God wants me to pay attention to, will start to come up in that way. And as you develop that sense of knowing and that sense of feeling within yourself and being in a relationship with your intuition, it will start to flow a lot easier for you, and you will start to recognize that inner knowing versus like your ego chatter. You'll start to be able to differentiate between the two of them. So definitely movement is a way to do that. Another way to get in touch with your intuition is journaling. And you'll notice here in the group that I say a lot of my different posts, I'll ask you to write things down. And I'll ask you to grab your notebook or grab your journal and write it out. And I know a lot of times, everyone kind of lives with their cell phones and we type everything. But when you start writing, there are a couple things that happen. You start to get in the flow, and you will notice that thoughts that you were not aware of will start to come up as you're writing. Also, especially if you are into affirmations and things of that nature, when you're writing, seeing it in your handwriting activates something within your subconscious mind as well. Also, as you're writing, you're reading it to yourself in your mind. So you're writing it out, you're hearing it in your mind, you're thinking those thoughts, and that also triggers your subconscious mind as well. So those are a couple of ways that you can start to develop your connection to your intuition so that you begin to recognize it more fully. All right, so I hope that helps you. The other part of your question is, how can you manifest your king? And you said you're learning a little bit by law of attraction. Okay, one thing that I would say, and that came up for me when I read this a bit earlier today, is when you think about the type of man that you want, ask yourself, are you the woman that he would want? You have this clear idea about the man that you're wanting to be in a relationship with and who it is that you're calling in. Are you his female equivalent? Are you the type of woman that if he ran into you right now in the supermarket that he would say, that is my woman? And if you're not, start shaping yourself into being that. Start developing the habits and getting in the mindset of who that woman is. Do the things that she would do. Start carrying yourself in the manner which that king will recognize his queen. So when you start embodying that energy and that image of the woman that he would be most attracted to, because that's who you're really wanting to be, right? You have this idea of this man that you're wanting to be in partnership with. So you know that in order for you to be with this man, he's going to like a certain type of woman. So you, if you're not already in that space, start to get yourself in the space of being that woman. And he will start coming into you. And you may start to encounter different men who aren't quite what you're looking for, but that's like a weeding and a seeding process. It is an opportunity for you to further develop and further strengthen your idea and your vision of who it is that you're wanting. So don't get discouraged if you're coming across men who don't quite fit the bill. They are there to reinforce what it is that you're actually looking for. Okay? So those are great questions, and thanks for posting those. Let's see. The next question we have from Candace, and I know Candace is checking this out in the replay because she is in South Africa. And her question is, she's wanting to know how to keep the momentum going when life gets full and she's distracted and easily loses focus. How does she keep the momentum going and staying in tune with her desire and her sensuality when life starts to get too much? That's a great question, Candace. That's a really good question. And one of the things that you can do to stay connected to your desires and your sensuality when life starts to turn up the volume a bit is you want to do things that ground and center you into what it is that you're desiring. And in a previous video, I had talked about that weekly self-massage that I do. That is something that will ground you into your body. It will bring you kind of out of your head and out of all of the things that are going on around you and center you and ground you back within yourself. So definitely start to do that form of self-care more often, regularly and consistently if you aren't already. That is something that will absolutely help with that, tuning you back into yourself. Also, depending on what your desires are, have those things or representations of those things in your physical space so that you can see them. One thing that I am a huge user of is Pinterest, and I have a lot of different Pinterest boards, but I will use them to create a visual of what it is that I'm wanting. And I know like a couple months ago I had done a post where I got rid of all of my living room furniture, and I came home like maybe a week or so ago, and I was like, I really want some living room furniture. I think it's time for me to start looking at that. And so I went on to Pinterest and started building my new living room and what the setup of that was going to look like. So I got really clear on the furniture. I found pictures of everything that I was wanting, knowing where to find it, how much it was going to cost. I put all of that into my board so that the vision of it wasn't just this, I want furniture. It's really, really clear. Like when I'm ready to start buying it, I know exactly where to go get the sofa. I know where to get the rugs. I know where to find the lamps. I know all of those things. So when you surround yourself with clear visuals or representations of what it is that you're wanting, it brings back focus into your desires and makes them more tangible. So it's something that you can see or touch that will kind of give that more weight to them, so they're not just something that's in your mind, but is actually something that you can physically see or go to and come into contact with. Also, one thing that I don't think I've brought up before here is meditation. Meditation is great for kind of helping you turn down the volume of what's going on in life. And when I do my meditation, I do a walking meditation in the morning, but also if I'm at home and I just need to tune in or tune out everything else that's going on around me, I light a candle. I have a white candle that sits on the top of my bookcase. I'm looking at it right now. It's a white candle. And I light that and I focus on that flame. And I close my eyes and I will focus my mind, tuning everything else out until I can see that flame in my mind. And I know that when I'm able to see that with my eyes closed, everything else is falling away and I'm able to really tune into whatever it is that I need to pay attention to at that time, or I'm able to receive guidance at that point. So try meditation, try creating physical representations and visuals of what it is that you're wanting. Good old-fashioned physical vision boards are great as well, to kind of help you tune into and reconnect to your desires. Also, that massage will definitely impact your sensuality. And one thing that I wanted to say about that, I've mentioned the massage a couple of times in a couple of different posts and videos. And ladies, that I think is something that is so key to getting in touch with your sensuality, with getting in touch with your body, with getting in touch with expressing love, physical love to your body. I cannot stress enough how important that is. And what's really important that I want to make you aware of is not something that connection is going to happen automatically, right? It's going to take time. And I don't want you all to feel discouraged if you're doing it and nothing comes up for you, or you start feeling a little bit anxious, or you have these emotions or feelings that you're perceiving as being negative. That's perfect if you're experiencing that, because what that is your, is that you're starting to process that emotion so that you can release it. And once you release it, the connection that you have with your body, your sensuality will start to deepen. So I want you to give that some time to unfold and give it the space to grow so that you are able to really experience that connection. It is a game changer. I cannot tell you how much of a game changer it is. And I was talking with someone a few days ago in the group, and I was explaining to them that, there isn't, I love my body. I think my body is amazing, right? But yes, there are things that I don't love about it. I wish some things were different. But there is that underlying love and appreciation and connection to my body. And that absolutely affects my dating life, the way I present myself in the world. All of that ties into it. So definitely give yourself some space and some time. If you haven't started with that practice, start doing that. You don't have to do it every day. You can do it once a week, but definitely start creating that ritual and that routine around giving yourself that body love and that attention. Okay? So, Candace, those were great questions. Thanks for posting those. All right, so Danielle had a question of how to can I provide some tips on how to foster stronger non-romantic relationships, relationships with family or friends? Absolutely, Daniel. That is a great question, and I'm glad that you asked that because that was something that I have been working through a lot myself over the last year, especially with my family, is creating stronger relationships and relationships in a different way. And I've had some conversations, especially with my mom, about this where, like, I'm the baby of the family, right? And so parents, even though we are older, like I'm a fully formed and functioning adult, but to her, I'm still her baby. And so we had to have, and it's an ongoing dialogue, we had to have this conversation of, I don't need you to parent me anymore because you've already done that and you've done a great job. What I'm needing from you is a different type of relationship. I'm needing more of a friendship and less of a parenting role, right? And so I think with those, especially family relationships, you have to start having the conversation and being open and being willing to be vulnerable in that space and say, establish your boundaries and say, this is what I'm needing, or this is what I would like to experience. This is where I think we are, but this is where I want to go. How do you feel about that? And you have to be open to them saying, okay, yes, that works for me, or no, I don't see it like that. And then you have the ongoing discussion about it. But I think it's really about being honest about your needs and where you are in your life. Also, sometimes in our family relationships, they can be challenges, because your family, you don't get to choose them, right? Like, you're born into this dynamic and you have to make it work as best you can. And you take on different programming, different conditioning as you're growing up in that family environment. But once you become an adult, it is sometimes not so easy to navigate because the roles that you may have played have now changed because you're no longer that same person. So what I would offer you is that you can't change anyone else. What you can do is focus on what you love about that person, right? So, for example, I had some challenges in one of my relationships with my brother. I have two older brothers, and we were experiencing some challenges in our relationship. It was not where it had once been, right? We were not getting along the way that we used to. And I was starting to notice that when I thought about him, I was having certain thoughts about him and they would go to the negative, right? And I love my brother. And I noticed that when I would think about him, when I would get a text from him, when I would get a phone call from him, I immediately went to a negative space before we even had any interaction, right? And so that was my projecting onto him my own thoughts, ideas, feelings, what have you, and responses to things that he may or may not have done. And I got to the point where I decided that I didn't want to have that kind of relationship with him. I didn't want to have those kind of thoughts when he would come to mind, or when I would, you know, interact with him or get a phone call or a text message from him. I didn't want to be in that space. It didn't feel good. I wasn't enjoying it. It just wasn't a fun place to be in for us. And so what I started doing is, you guys know, I write everything down. I made a list of all the things that I love about my brother. And it was small things to the way that he would come and shovel my walkway, or the way that we would play together, or the way that we would laugh. I made a list of everything that I could think of that I loved about him, right? And so when those thoughts would come up for me that weren't so positive around him, I went to my list and I would read a few of the things that I loved about him, and that shifted the energy in our relationship, that shifted my thoughts. And what I noticed, and we've all heard that, our words are creators, our thoughts are creators. We create our experiences by the things that we think and the things that we say. It is absolutely true. When I decided to shift my idea about who I thought he should be, because that's what it really was. It was about my idea of how I thought he should be and the way that he should do things. When I started to shift that and realize that my relationship with him can be whatever I decide that it's going to be. And that applies to friends, colleagues, co-workers, husbands, girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever the case may be. Those relationships can be whatever you decide they can be, okay? So it's not about you being able to control someone else, because you absolutely can't, but you can control yourself. You can control your thoughts. You can control your responses, your ideas, your attitudes. So focus on that. Focus on what it is that you want to experience with that person, and start cultivating that energy before you even get into a conversation with them, before you even have any type of exchange. You start cultivating the energy that you want to have when it comes to that person, and it will absolutely affect the output. It will absolutely affect what really happens between you. And you also said how to create stronger relationships with friends. Okay, if you're wanting to create stronger relationships with your friends, I think the same thing applies. I think that it starts to be, what is it that I want to experience with this person? What is it that I want to experience with this person? And start acting from that place. One thing that I had to learn is that I have different friends for different things. Not every friend is interested in the same things that I'm interested in. Not every friend is going to have the same viewpoints. Like, I have a friend who, no matter, like, I just started taking dance classes. She is not going to come with me to dance class. Like, that is not her thing. I invite her every time I'm about to go, and she always tells me no. And I stopped taking that personally, because I realized it's not about me. She's not saying, no, Dawn, I don't want to spend time with you. She's saying, I don't want to go dancing. So she and I don't go dancing, but we do go to Sunday brunch. You know what I mean? So it's really about finding where that person fits and where they want to fit in your life, and then honoring that and meeting them at that place. So that is a great question, and thanks for posting that, and I hope that helps. So let's see, the next question we have is from Christina. Hey, Christina, and she says she just realized today that she has unsexy old undergarments, and the few sexy things that she does have she bought ages ago, and they were hidden in the back of her closet, and she never wears them. And she doesn't want there to be any evidence of her being sensual, sexual, or sexy. And she feels shame around that, even though she knows there's nothing to be ashamed of. Okay, and she goes on to say that realizing that today made her a bit sad, and she doesn't know how to get rid of this feeling. How do I allow myself to feel sexy at home and in public, and not feel like I have to hide it, but own it? That is a great question, Christina. Thanks so much for writing that in. I know it's not always easy to share something that can be a bit vulnerable like that. So thank you so much for trusting us to post that in the group. So how can you feel more sexy at home and in public, and not as if you have to hide it, but to own it? And you have some shame around feeling sexy or sensual. And not talking to you about this before, but I would start to look at what's the source of that shame. Because usually when you start to feel shame around certain things, it's something that someone else has given you that you've picked up and decided to own. So is it that you think society is going to respond to you a certain way? Has it been that maybe family or ex-boyfriends or lovers have responded to you in a particular way that you are taking on and allowing that to shape how you view yourself? So really start to think about and figure out where that shame is coming from, and start to do the work to unpack that and release all of that. Because a lot of times that's someone else's projection of how they feel about themselves, and they're putting that on you. Okay? And you don't want to hold on to that. You want to release it, because you start to realize that it's really not about you at all. It's really about them. And so release that. Let that go. Give that back to them. And you can do that by having you can go into a meditative state. You can have a conversation with them, and they don't even have to be there with you. You can sit in your room, sit in your living room, sit at your kitchen table, and have the conversation with that person. And mom, dad, boyfriend, whomever gave that to you, you can have the conversation of, this is how I'm feeling. This is what I feel like you've given me, and I want to give that back to you. I want to release that because it no longer serves me. And you start to let that go. As far as how to start feeling sexy on your own, and I wish I had turned on a light, because I see it's starting to get a little dark, but how to start to feel sexy, define what sexy is to you. And start with little things that make you feel sexy. So if it's wearing your lingerie at home, wear it at home. If it is starting to get in touch with your body and doing physical things with your body, if it's touching yourself, if it's looking at yourself in the mirror and noticing what is beautiful and sexy about you, start doing that. Start doing things and getting really clear about what is sexy to you, what is sensual to you. And when you start to feel the resistance that comes up, don't fight that. A lot of times when we are dealing with different things and resistance to those things comes up, we start to fight it. We start to not want to face it. And it's really great that that starts to come up, because it's coming up so that you can release it and that you can let it go. So sit in front of the mirror and look at yourself. Sit in front of the mirror nude and look at yourself. Look at your body. Start to notice all the beautiful and wonderful things that you have going on for yourself. Whether it's your hair or your smooth skin or the shape of your neck or the roundness in your shoulders or the flatness or the roundness in your tummy, whatever that may be, the way that your breasts look, whatever it is, start to notice those things and really start to praise and adore those things about your body, because your body's beautiful. Is absolutely nothing to feel shame about. Okay? So start doing some of those things to get in touch with yourself and noticing what's beautiful and what's sexy about you, and go as slowly as you need to go. Like, take your time with it. This isn't something that has to happen right away or that you have to force. It will be natural. It will start to come through for you naturally, easily. So just let that come up and let that start to flow for you, and enjoy it and do it regularly so that it becomes innate. You know, it's about like when you start to do these different practices, it's like learning a new language. You have to practice. It's about repetition, repetition, repetition. The more that you do something, the more innate it becomes a part of you. And you won't even have to reach for it anymore. It'll just be the next most naturally occurring thought. Okay? So thanks so much, Christina, for posting that question. And if you have any other questions, any of the ladies that posted questions today, if you want to follow up with me, feel free to leave a message down below in the comment section, and I will respond to that. Anyone, I see I have a couple people that are hanging out with me tonight. Do any of you all have questions about anything that we've talked about today? If so, I will happily take your questions now. No? Let me see if I can move this a little bit. No? No questions? No? Questions? Going once? Going twice? No? Okay. Well, cool. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, ladies. I really appreciate your time and your energy and for posting your questions. And I will see you in the group. If you have other comments or questions, post them down. I will answer them, and I will talk to you ladies soon. All right, so thanks so much for joining me. Have a good night. Bye.